First-time visit to the City of Lights. Welcome to Vacation Mavens, the podcast that brings you travel inspiration and practical tips from two moms who know how to plan the perfect trip.
I'm Tamara from Your Time to Fly.
And I'm Kim from Stuffed Suitcase. With over 40 years of travel experience between us, we're here to share our favorite destinations from road trips to cruising, theme parks, and European adventures.
Whether you're planning a family vacation or a mom getaway, we have the tips and tricks to make memories that will last a lifetime. So Kim, it was a good summer for both of us. We got to visit Paris, and I know it was your first time, and we talked about your Switzerland trip, but we didn't really talk about the time that you spent with Mia in Paris. Yeah. And I'm excited to see your feedback because it's such a bucket list city and there's so much to see and do. But I thought maybe today we could talk about not just like what you guys did, but for a first-time visitor to Paris, talk about some of those top attractions, things you should know before you go, that type of thing.
I think that makes sense. And you've been how many times now? 3?
Actually, it was 5, but It depends. Like
how
2
much?
were in the same summer.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, just
gotcha.
like
Yeah,
short
exactly.
visits, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's good because you have a little bit more of a seasoned, it's not like you're a resident, but you have more of the seasoned voice. So you can see like stuff that traditional first timers maybe want to do that they should skip, or tips to help us navigate. Because we definitely made some issues. The Paris thing for us, the funny thing is it was a bonus because originally we were just going to meet up and head straight into Switzerland. But because of a flight change and just adjustments, I was able to get us 2 days together there. So that was really nice.
Did you love it? Like I will say the first time I visited Paris was in 2001 and I was younger.
Yeah.
I don't think Parisians were as friendly and open as they are now. You know, it was definitely more of what you used to hear about. I feel like now that's really not an issue. And I was also just intimidated. I knew no French, so I was struggling and Glenn was working and I was just there to explore. And everything was on strike. So it wasn't like a good first impression, but how was your first impression?
I loved it. I was really worried because I feel like there's those cities that they're hyped up so much and then you get there and you're, I don't really know. Or you just aren't seeing the right part of the city because you are stuck on like the first timers tourist attraction pass.
Sure.
And we definitely did some of that. So I wasn't sure what to expect. I kind of went in also so terrified to be on any kind of public transit, like that I was going to be pickpocketed, because I felt like while I was researching, every video in my Instagram, Facebook feed was about like identifying Paris pickpockets. So it like felt like a bigger issue in my head than it was going to be. But yeah, I really did fall in love with it. I think it's an amazing city, even as a first-time tourist. I think it's worth a stop. It's definitely got some charm and got some history that deserves to be appreciated.
And you had 2 days, which I know you did a lot of walking. But how many days do you wish you had?
I think it depends. Definitely we had bad weather for 1 day. So I would say I think a 5-day visit is really a good sweet spot. Of course, it's a huge city. So I think you could keep doing all these different, it's quite spread out. So discovering different places to eat and all the parks, like some of the parks are so charming and beautiful, and the buildings and discovering all of that. I think you need a little bit more time, but just having a taste for the 2 days was a nice treat.
Yeah, I also agree. I think 5 days is really perfect because you can really hit the different neighborhoods, the major attractions. Yeah. And I think what I've loved about when I've gone back the last couple of times is that I've seen those things. And so while I might be able to add one more like off the beaten path area or attraction, I get to just enjoy, and I enjoy walking and just enjoy being. And it makes such a difference to me versus when we were like checking the boxes of the things that you want to see.
Yeah. And I would say, I think that's another thing we did is we didn't overschedule ourselves for even the 2 days we had. It was a lot of walking, which is Mia's preferred form of transit. And thankfully I was able to keep up with her. And like you said, just going, hey, we're going up towards the Eiffel Tower, but we're taking our time getting there. Because we stayed in the 5th arrondissement. Maybe we should talk about that a little bit. It's just Paris is giant and understanding arrondissements. So maybe since you have a little more experience, you could talk about arrondissements just a tad bit. I know we have an episode on Paris, so people could go back and somebody gave a little bit more information, but maybe talk about how it's laid out on the city and then a couple of highlight areas that you think are best for first-time tourists.
Yeah, I often will confuse the numbers, but I think people often refer to either left bank or right bank. Yeah. And the arrondissement or whatever the neighborhoods are set up, they're kind of like a snail pattern because they first started in the center, the historic center, and then have spiraled out from there. So the numbers don't always quite make
Right.
sense. You might go, this is not correct, but you might go from 5 to 13 or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. But so it can be definitely confusing. And then there's also names of neighborhoods
Yeah.
that, are, are you talking about it from a number perspective or the name?
Yeah.
But generally, I think you want to be kind of close to the Seine.
Yeah.
You want to
Yep.
be in that central area from Notre Dame down to the Eiffel
Yep.
Tower on either side within a walking distance is like
I
ideal.
agree.
I used to always tell people that I think the Saint-Germain-des-Prés, again,
Yeah.
French is terrible, is a great neighborhood. And that's where those classic cafes and things are
Yeah.
that the writers would go to. And it has that great neighborhoody feel. I think that's the sixth,
Okay.
right? I feel like somebody's going to yell at me with this.
Yeah, it
So,
doesn't have to be exact, but just give people an
but
idea.
anyway, I used to think that was really prime. And I also had always, not always, but I think back in the day, people liked to be a lot in what they call the Golden Triangle. So it's the
Yeah.
Champs-Élysées, again, terrible pronunciation, so embarrassed, so sorry. But
Where the Arc de Triomphe
from the
is.
Arc de Triomphe down
Yeah.
to the Louvre, like you have what they call the Golden Triangle. And it was always very high level shopping.
Yeah.
And then that area had turned into, like, you've been to Barcelona,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know how like Las Ramblas was like,
Yes.
oh, you have to go there, you have to go there. And now it's like touristy
Touristy.
shops.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the shops along that road have turned into more like brands that you can find anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a little less exciting. But I feel like they're taking that area back and they're opening that big Louis Vuitton. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of the bigger brands that are having more of a presence there. They're trying to bring back, I think, some of that luxury feel.
Yeah.
But so for a long time, like that area was great if you're going like high end shopping, but maybe not so great. But I actually stayed there and I explored there a few times. So I actually do like it. And I like the central area. Again, you think like being central, you're going to be so like noisy and crowded. And you can very easily get just one or two streets, like
Streets
find a
off.
quieter street.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really great places. But where I stayed a couple times in this last trip was Le Marais, that's the right.
I know Fifth is by
You'll have to
Notre
research
Dame.
it.
So I was like, we were really near Notre Dame when I stayed in the Fifth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but on the right bank.
Yeah, I was on the other. Yeah, we were on.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I think it's the Marais, and so that area I feel is really great for a mother-daughter trip or like
Yeah.
anyone that wants to do, because there's so much like vintage shopping and like little boutiques and like cool restaurants and a lot of that kind of
Yeah.
vibe. So I think it often depends on what is it your first visit or not,
Yeah.
and what do you think you're going to want to do? How neighborhoody do you want it to be versus a very short walk to attractions, and
Yeah.
then just who you're going with and what vibe you're looking for.
I think that makes sense. And I agree. I think the biggest thing is be near the Seine, like just be near the river. Because that, if you're a walker, it just makes it so much easier to orient yourself. And you're like, yep, we'll just follow right down there. And we really appreciated that. So yeah, ours was in the Monge area, Monge. And there was a famous pharmacy right near our hotel that I was able to go stock up on some French pharmaceuticals. That was one thing we did do that I wanted to make sure to do, was to go to a French pharmacy and buy some fun skincare stuff. So I bought some kind of kit that the pharmacist recommended for aging. And then we bought the La Roche-Posay sunscreens. Yeah.
Which a lot of them you can now get at Target, but I always get I don't know what to buy when I go into the French
Yeah.
pharmacy, and they're very willing to help you if you can speak French, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Thankfully, Mia can speak French. She helped me a bit. But the
Yeah.
La Roche-Posay in France is different than what we get in the States because there's different
Okay.
approval. So they have a new sunscreen filter that's approved in the EU that's not approved in the States. So we're still using a chemical based, and theirs is a higher end, better product. The actual formulation of what La Roche-Posay can sell in the States is different than what they sell in the French pharmacy. So that's why you want to buy your La
See,
Roche-Posay
I would have
there.
brought some back
Yeah.
if I known that.
Yeah.
I was kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I can just get that at home. And the other brand that I've bought over there is the Caudalie.
Yeah, Caudalie. Yeah, that's
CAU.
very popular. And it's very scented, though. I can't handle the scents. Yeah.
A lot of, and so I have a friend that's going to, they have a property in Bordeaux that family owns with apparently a very good spa. And I just booked a friend of mine there for her birthday.
Oh my
So
goodness, that's
I
amazing.
hope it's really
Yeah,
good.
I bet it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, people rave about their stuff. Mia actually got a facial sunscreen stick of Caudalie, however you say it.
And just to correct myself, the Marais is the third and the fourth.
Okay, there you go. Nice. You looked it up.
I think the fifth Yeah, the 5th is the Latin Quarter, and that's like where I explored new for
Okay.
this trip.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we're
We're
really
going long.
digressing, but
I know
let's
we're
talk about
digressing going long.
some of the attractions
Yep.
that everyone wants to see. Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower. Yeah. We did not pay. Again, this was a spontaneous trip. So I didn't even look for tickets to try and go up it or anything. For me, I remembered you saying that it was a bit of a letdown. I seem to recall. And then I remembered if I was going to pay money, I was going to go to the Arc de Triomphe because if you go up to the top of it, you actually have the Eiffel Tower to see. So instead, we did did you hear about the famous mall? I can't remember what it is. You go up to the mall and you go up to
The
the
Galeries
fifth,
Lafayette,
maybe. You go up to the fifth floor and there's
the
the
terrace.
terrace that overlooks
Yeah.
and you get like a
Yeah.
beautiful overlooking thing. So we did that. It was free. And
Yeah.
us along with 100,000 other tourists in the summer because those escalators to go all the way up, it was crazy. And then the bathroom
Yeah.
lines. But anyway, so we did that and then we stood, is it which side of the bank? I don't know which side of the bank of the river.
Across the river from it?
Yeah, so we didn't. Yeah,
So
we
the right
across.
side,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we were on the right side, looking at it. There's a
Like the
famous
Trocadero
spot. Yeah.
Gardens there. Yeah.
But then we were happy with kind of the spot we found just along the Seine. And then for the nighttime, we went down to this famous. I want to say it's something like Port Belly. I cannot remember it, but it's a famous. Everyone's learning about it now because it's all over Instagram. But from the Eiffel Tower, if you come down a bit on the right bank, and then you go down some stairs onto where people have tethered their boats, you
Mm-hmm.
can hang out there and look at the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And that's where, if people look at my photos, that's where we went for the nighttime show. Because that's something, I guess, that is fun to know is that there is a nighttime light show that happens at 11, I think, and then midnight.
I think it starts earlier depending on the time of year when it gets dark, but it's like on the hour and a half hour, or just hour.
I think it's just the hour on
it's
the
just the
hour.
hour.
And then,
Yeah.
it does start based on the summer. Ours was at 11. So we got there a little earlier. And then it just is a pretty light show.
Yeah, silly.
Sparkly light show.
That's where we took a dinner cruise this time, and that's where the cruise left from, like where you're describing.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we had nice views of that, leaving at sunset, coming back just as the light show was happening.
Yeah,
So it was really
we saw
nice.
so many of those. It almost looks like a river cruise, right? So many of those boats
Yeah.
going up and down. It is a river cruise, but go. So why don't you talk about that? Because Mia with her French class did a daytime, like speaking river cruise tour.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved it. She thought it was really well done and liked it. And she was on the top deck. And then I looked at maybe doing a dinner cruise, but she didn't want to be stuck inside a boat with people. And then with allergies, we just didn't want to worry about the food, limited food. So what do you want to say about that? Because I know that's one of the other top things people do.
Yeah. Just quickly on the Eiffel Tower, I just want to mention, like, you guys didn't get tickets, and you really do need to book tickets. They usually open up like a couple, either 90 to 60 days in advance, and they go like that. But one of the things, even if there aren't many tickets available, usually if you buy one that includes like the champagne, that's because it's that's one of the last ones to go. So you can find that maybe last minute. And you can buy tickets either to the second level, which I've gone up in the Eiffel Tower twice, and I've only ever done the second level because both times I've been with Glenn.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And or you can buy to the summit.
Right.
And so then you would take like an elevator to the second level and then another one up to the summit. And so you have to decide which you want to do, and do you want to do it with or not. And you can also take the stairs if you want, like that's an option. But yeah, just know that elevator is like just jam packed. It's a hassle to get through all the security lines that you have to get into. Then you're jam packed in this little lift that goes up like on an angle up one of the legs to the second level. And then it's crowded, and yes, it's a nice view, but I do agree with you that I actually like seeing the tower from either from the park below or across the river or on the river, one of those kind of things.
Yep.
Yeah, so this time, so when we went as a family, and I may have talked about this on a previous podcast, but we did one of those larger boat cruises, and we did do an evening one because you will see them going up and down the Seine all day.
Yep.
And we did, I think, Bateau Parisians, because it would definitely left from right below the Eiffel Tower. And I know there's Bateau Mouche, which is like further down the river a little bit.
Yeah.
And
because there's different.
we got there early to line up so that we could get a good upper deck, front row, see everything.
Yeah.
But none of us really liked it, to be honest with you, because there was a big group, like a school group or
Okay.
something, and every time we went under a bridge, they all wanted to yell to see how much noise they could make. And even Hannah was what,
Adorable.
like 18 at the time. She was just like, get me out of here. Like she couldn't get off that boat fast enough. So when I was just there on this work trip, we were supposed to do a private boat tour, which would have been
Yeah. Yeah,
amazing.
nice.
But that ended up getting canceled. And then everyone was going to go do this big public one at 11 o'clock at night or something. And I was like, you know what? I've done that before. And I told them about the screaming. And I'm like, I think I'm going to skip this one. And I just walked back to my hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, I'm like, so how was it? Did you guys do it? They're like, no, we lined up and it was like a huge line. So we knew we weren't going to get a really good seat. And then one was coming in and everyone was screaming when they were going under the bridges.
Oh
I was
no.
like,
You're like,
"See?"
yep. Wow.
I'm
So
like,
that's
that's
a thing that
exactly why
people
I didn't do
do.
it.
That's scary.
So this time I debated. Glenn and I like to try different foodie experiences. And I know a lot of people like to do a dinner
Right.
cruise. And I think a lot of those larger boat dinner cruises, the food is not the forefront of that
Right.
experience, because it has to be more like banquet food
Right.
because you're having it for so many different people. So I wanted to do something a little different. So we did the Alain Ducasse dinner cruise, and he's, if you haven't heard of him, a famous French chef, and he's, got restaurants everywhere. Obviously, he's not on the boat actually, like,
He's
creating
making,
this
he
dinner,
brings it to your
but
table.
it has we actually, and I was really debating because earlier in that week, someone that I met was like, oh, I did the lunch and I didn't think it was worth it. Which, whenever you do something like this, it's expensive and
Yeah.
it's always hard to say, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you just look at it from that standpoint, is it worth it? But you have to combine it with, it's a really nice dinner plus an
Yep.
experience. And like, then is it worth it for you? And so we decided to do the dinner one, and it's really like a restaurant on the water. So like the tables are like really spaced. They have two different boarding times so that
Right.
not everyone is being served at the same time. It's You have a menu that you can choose.
Oh,
It's
that's
kind of
nice.
like a set menu, but you choose from
Yep.
between maybe three different main courses. And it just felt like a fine dining experience, but on the water. And then they had a whole upstairs that you can go. And like I went up there when we were pulling away because there's a beautiful sunset. And you could
Right.
just see the light hitting the tower, and it was like golden and it was beautiful. And then we went up there towards the end when we wanted to see the light show. And so it was a really nice, great service, really good food, like, but definitely pricey. But if you wanted to have that experience without it being with a lot of people,
Yeah.
that could be a way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. And I did notice, like, when we were walking, there are places to eat. There are just stationary kind of restaurants. So if you
Yeah.
just want to feel like you're on a boat and eating, you can just book a
Right.
restaurant without having the cruise. So that was something. I don't know of how well any of them were rated. I never really looked it up, and I'm sure you pay a premium for the
It seems like
whatever
some
it
of
is.
them are even like cocktail bars,
Oh yeah,
like,
maybe.
yeah, just
Yeah.
fun, another way to create
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. So maybe we've talked about like kind of the neighborhoods a little bit. Definitely, I would say two other places I think we should bring up. One I didn't get to go to, but first one is the Louvre.
Yeah,
So I think
definitely.
that's, I would say, must do. Sadly, I want to go back because we misread the closing times. We thought we had 4 hours. We only had 2 hours, which 2 hours is not enough, just so people know. So talk about the Louvre. You must like definitely order tickets in advance. And yeah.
So I think one of the things to know is that it's closed on Tuesdays. So when you're planning your trip, keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You definitely should buy your tickets in advance.
And they're timed
You
entry
need
tickets.
timed
Yep.
entry tickets. And I think some people are like, oh, I'm not really a museum person or I'm not really art person. Go anyway.
Yeah.
But like what I would encourage you to do is like book a tour because they will help you. The Louvre has something like 30,000 pieces of art, like, and
It's
only
giant.
so many of them are
On
on
display.
display at any one time. And it is giant. Like
It's
you can get lost. And I think with most art museums, like definitely the Met in New York, I love the architecture.
Absolutely.
Like almost as much
the
as
rooms
the
are so
actual
fun. Yeah.
art.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Louvre was a palace.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
there's so much history just about the actual building itself. But I know when we went with Hannah, we did a closing time with the Mona Lisa tour
Nice.
with
Live tours?
Take Walks.
Take Walks, okay.
So like Walks of Italy,
Yep.
Walks of France.
Yeah.
But Take Walks is the parent company.
Yep.
And it was fantastic.
Okay.
It was like a little bit bigger of a group. It was like 15 people.
Okay.
And you did have to have like a little headset
Yeah.
because they don't want to shout. Like when
Oh, of
you're
course
in
not. Yeah.
a place like that, there's a lot of people. Some of, yeah, like Live Tours does a smaller, no
Yeah.
more than six
6 people.
people,
Yeah.
which is nice. But I really enjoyed it because we saw the highlights. We didn't have to worry about navigating and getting lost and which gallery and all that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And then also they just pointed out they know we were going to end with the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And that's like after the crowd is gone. It's right before they close.
Yeah.
So there's no long queue. You can walk right up to it, take a picture, spend time. But before that, our guide, who was just amazing, spent time like showing us other art from the time and other art from Da Vinci.
Yeah.
And that was just a way to, I think a lot of people will see the Mona Lisa and be like, oh, that's all it is? Like that. No, all
Yeah.
of this fuss over
Yeah.
something that's so
Yeah.
small and whatever. So it explains like where art was at that time and
Absolutely.
why this was
Why it was
revolutionary.
revolutionary.
And,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
hardest thing. Think people also don't like the way she follows. Like, you can't really experience it the way it's set up because of the crowds. So you have to be on one side of looking at her and then go to the back of the group and kind of move over to the other side to see that, like, because she tracks. She's like that. They have the dimensional look or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, it is. I would say I'm moderately a museum person. Like, I like museums and I especially love sculptures. And for
Yeah, me
Mia and
too.
I, we spent so much time in is it Venus de Milo? No, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like just all the sculptures, and then the wings statue, and there's just the sculptures in there are breathtaking. I think that if you have any appreciation for just art and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, but for us, part of the fun, she doesn't like groups, of course. I think
Yeah.
I've mentioned this, but Mia does not like loud noises and groups and crowds. So often that affects how we do stuff. But for
Yeah.
us, getting lost trying to figure out the map and where are we supposed to go now, and like backtracking was some of the fun. If we weren't limited on time, we would have probably could have spent quite a few hours just having fun getting
Yeah.
lost and finding our way to the different regions and stuff. Because I mean, it's everything from, so people think of Mona Lisa and all the sculptures and that aspect of, I don't know, like Italian and maybe, I don't know, but all of that. But there's all this other stuff like Egyptian artifacts of
Yeah.
all the mummies, and there's so many different areas and different topics that are covered.
Yeah. It's really
Yeah.
fantastic museum.
Yeah.
And I think I'll mention two other museums that are so much easier to visit if you want to,
Yes.
but one is the Musée d'Orsay. So that's the one that's known for a lot of
Monet.
the
Yeah.
Impressionists, and it is in an old train station. So again, it has some really great beauty just in the building.
That's our friend Eric's
Um,
favorite one. He loves that one.
yeah, and so I've done that and I really enjoy it. And the line isn't as bad. I think I had the Paris Museum pass then, so not sure if I had pre-booked a timed entry still. I think you still maybe needed to, but you didn't have to, but it saved you
Helps,
time
yeah.
kind of thing. And the other one that we did was the
Orangery.
Orangeries, which has that, it's like a rotunda with a round wall that has a huge Monet watercolors, water lilies
Oh, yeah, that's the
painting,
one
and
I'm thinking of.
that's really so.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two if you just want to get like a little taste of art. I've also done the Rodin Museum, but just the outside
Okay.
gardens
There's
because that's he's more into sculpture, so
Oh,
that's
beautiful.
what I was interested
Yeah.
in.
There's a famous exhibit that I think is ending this month also. And I don't remember if it was at d'Orsay or if it was at the Orangerie, but it was the bowl thing and the noise in the bowl. And
Okay.
I've seen that on social media a lot, and we miss doing that. And I wish we'd gone because I've had a few people like that was an amazing exhibit. It was like just bowls on water, and the bowls were like wind chimes. And so it was
Oh,
like you would
neat.
just mesmerize listening to this tinkling, chiming of the bowls as they naturally
Yeah,
moved. So it was really
very
beautiful. And it was
zen.
in like a rotunda. So it was
Okay.
bright and just open, and people were just like taking it in silence. So really beautiful
Oh,
thing.
very nice.
But yeah, so I think I agree with those two museums as well. And in that area between those two, it's just beautiful. There's all those bridges and all the sculptures, the gold people, and then there's something famous over there that was, I'm trying to think of if it was from the Olympics or it was something with Napoleon.
Oh, yeah.
Mia told me about. I'm blanking.
Well, there's the obelisk in the Place de Concorde.
Okay, maybe that's it.
But then,
Obelisk.
like, if you walk
What is
through
that?
the Tuileries Garden,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
have right now. There's that big,
yeah,
like, Olympic
flame.
balloon.
The
Yeah.
pretend flame. I saw when you
Yes.
posted that because I was like, we figured that out too. Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
about there's one attraction that ever has been in the news and just recently reopened,
Okay.
but Notre Dame is obviously a huge draw for people
Ah, that's
going
right.
to Paris. So was that something that you hit? Did you see it from the outside, from the
I saw it
inside?
from the outside. We did not go in. They were supposed to go in with their French class, and somehow it got rescheduled, canceled. There was something going on, and they closed. They weren't able to go in when they were planning to go in, and then they ended up not going in at all. But they spent so many time, so many cathedrals, and they're all like, this is the thing. There's Mia was really sad to learn there's not one Notre Dame. There's Notre Dames all over the
Yeah.
place, and she was also thinking it was funny because the Notre Dame there is like from the movie. She always thought it was like in the countryside. And so it's
Oh,
like it's just funny
interesting.
how Disney makes people think one thing
Okay.
versus another.
Okay.
But it was just a funny thing. So we saw it from the outside, but neither of us went in. But because she had been cathedraled out by the time I joined
Yeah.
her, they went
Yeah.
into so many, and they're all the same. I don't want to go into another cathedral because it was part of they had to learn about it and stuff. They're built a certain way on a certain.
I mean, there's medieval and Gothic and
Yeah.
all these different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to get in
Nice.
this time.
Yep.
I think in the past, even when I was there before the fire, I don't think I'd ever really gone in, so I can't really comment on how different it looks.
Changes.
People
Yeah.
say it looks like a whole new place
Oh,
because everything
interesting.
has been restored
Yeah.
and cleaned, and so it's like bright and sparkling and new. But so the way that you have to do it now is it's a free ticket, but you can reserve it up to 3 days in advance.
Okay.
They do sell out, or you can go online the morning of and they release a few
Last minute.
more. So that's what I did is I had gotten to Paris. I landed at 8 a.m. and my room wasn't going to be ready till 3.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of walking to do. So I had breakfast, and as I was at breakfast, I like went on
Looked up.
and I was able to get the
Nice.
ticket to go through that day. But if you don't have a ticket, there is like a just a longer queue
Oh,
that you
okay.
can wait to go through. So it's a nice skip the line,
Yeah.
but you can just wait if you really want to go in otherwise. And it's crowded, of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is an app that actually Susan from Midlife
Yeah.
Globetrotter, who was on our episode about group trips, she's a Paris
Expert of sorts.
expert
Yeah. Yeah.
and who's probably laughing at us if she's listening to this episode, especially with all of our
Our
terrible French.
Yeah.
But she had told me that there is an app that you can download. So I remembered to bring my AirPods so that I could listen to an
Oh,
audio tour
like a free auto
as I
tour.
went through.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's a good way to do
Yeah.
it. People have asked me like, do I need a tour of it? Unless you're really into like
Cathedrals.
cathedrals and
Yeah.
all of that, then no.
And how much
And I
time
do
do you
say,
think it takes? Because I'm guessing it's like a 30-minute type thing.
yeah, like I think you could spend longer, especially the audio tour. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's enough. I'm going to skip to the next
Yeah.
thing. But if you listen to everything, it would probably take you more like 45
Okay.
minutes or so. And then there's some that goes around the outside. And I think they're still
construction
working
on the
on it.
side,
There's
on the
still
outside.
construction
Yep.
on the back.
Yep.
So you used to be able to go up in one of the towers. You can't do that at this time.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is if you're doing that to also get tickets to the Sainte-Chapelle church, whatever, nearby. But it's the one that has all the beautiful stained glass.
Yeah.
We did it when we were there with Hannah, and it is just absolutely
Gorgeous.
stunning, all the
That
stained
would have been
glass.
nice.
So
Yeah, like that. Good.
yeah, so that's really
That's
nice.
a
It doesn't
huge
feel
thing
like
as
you're
well.
in a church
Yeah.
really there. It's a little different. And then, yeah, just it's nice to be on like the islands in the center of the Seine. There's a little flower market there.
Right.
There's other things you can poke around and do in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that'll picnic. You saw them as you were going through. They'll go out to those little islands and they just sit there and hang out. Two
Yeah.
things I wanted to bring up that I didn't do I wasn't thinking of Notre Dame when I named my two, but one is the Sacré-Cœur,
Yeah. Right, in Montmartre.
Montmartre, and then also the Arc de Triomphe. So maybe we can close out
Mhm.
and just quickly touch on those two things. I think you have experience with both of them. Arc de Triomphe, we didn't pay to go up. We did go under and got up there and took pictures next to it and stuff, but we did go up top. So have you?
Same with me.
Okay.
Maybe I went up top the first time I was
I will-
in Paris, but I don't remember.
So
But
yeah, it's definitely it's pricey. I think it was 28 euro or something around there. But also, I think you want to pre-buy your tickets because the line to buy your tickets is a long line, and then you wait in a huge line for the security screening and to actually get up. So yeah,
yeah, but you mentioned something quickly that people should know, and that when you are going to go there, if you want to be up close to the Arc de Triomphe, you do need to use like the underground tunnels because it's in the middle of a rotunda, and you don't want to be like darting across the road there and getting smashed like a pancake. Yeah.
and those drivers are mad at like tourist drivers too that are driving around and like being stupid. So Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. We came in because we were on one side of the Champs or whatever, and so we got pictures of the cars.
Mhm.
It was like the light
Yeah.
would stop and we'd take some pictures of the arc, and then we went behind us and crossed the road and then went over to that side, and that's where the to go down and under it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was nice. That was good. And then we
Good.
walked along but then the other
And did you,
area. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you go up to Montmartre?
No, so the day we were gonna go, it was like rainy and gross, so we ended up just
Mm.
hanging out in the neighborhood, and we went to see the Marvelous Ladybug. It's a TV show, like kind of an anime TV
Oh,
show that
okay.
Mia's
I
really
didn't know that.
into when she was younger. And there's a part, it's based in Paris. And I guess supposedly there's a famous cafe that some people go to in the Montmartre area, and we were gonna do that. And then there's a park, so we didn't make it up to
Okay.
Sacre-Cœur. But I heard from a friend, they told me take the metro because it's going uphill. So take the metro up and then walk your way back down through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That was the tip I
Yeah.
heard.
And there is a funicular also that
Right.
you can
Oh,
do
maybe that's
up.
it.
I have been a few
Yeah.
times. So Glenn and I just went back and it was really nice weather, which was good because when we went with Hannah, it was rainy
Yeah.
and it was March, so it was like cold and rainy. And we did a walking tour then, and it was really funny because when I was back with Glenn, we were looking at certain things and we're like, there's a story behind this building, but I
I
don't
don't remember
remember
it.
what it
Yeah.
is, And I
That's
was
fine.
like, okay, we have paid attention to the tour guide, but it's known to be an artist neighborhood. So there's different writers and artists that have lived there over the
Worked
years, and there's
there.
still
Yeah.
a square where a lot of artists will set up and they'll do portraits, or they're just making different types. They're paint and you can purchase
Yeah.
and things. When I was there before, because it was so cold and rainy, I think it wasn't so crowded. When Glenn and I went there, we actually ended up taking a cab up, and then because we were staying pretty far away,
Okay.
and then we took the metro. We
Yeah.
walked down the hill, then took the metro to where we were going next. But it was so jam packed with tourists, and it was just like one of the roads where you're shuffling along past the souvenir shop that's
Yeah.
selling all the same stuff, and I was like, ugh, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But I've gone into the church. I think it's fine. It's prettier to see from the outside
Yeah.
because it just has a different
It's
style.
the viewpoint, right? Like the view of the
And the
city.
viewpoint,
It's like you
yeah,
go up there not
yeah.
necessarily to see it, but it's for the viewpoint
Yeah.
of the city. Yeah.
But if you walk around the neighborhood, you can see there's a little vineyard. Everyone lines up to take pictures in front of Le Maison Rose, or it's a pink house, like a little pink.
Yeah.
So of course we saw like the women with the gowns on, like standing
yeah,
in
of
front.
course.
We're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
like
Moulin Rouge is there.
Moulin
Moulin
Rouge is
in that
there.
area. So
Mhm.
that's something that I
Yep.
guess a lot of people would do if you're looking for nighttime entertainment kind of show and
Yes,
show and dinner.
yeah.
Is it show and dinner?
You could do either.
Yeah.
You can do dinner
Yeah.
and a show, or just the show.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to go back up there is when I did this trip where it was a work trip, and I looked at 18 different hotels over
Yep.
the course of 5 to 6 days, and I was really run down and I was not feeling well towards the end of that, and I wanted to go back to Montmartre because there's my favorite chicken soup I've ever
I
had in my
remember that,
life was
yeah.
at this one chicken restaurant up there, and we went there for lunch, and then it was not on the menu because they only
Summer.
have it on the menu in the winter, and I was like, oh no.
You're like,
But still really nice
course.
roast chicken.
Nice.
And a little off the beaten path.
I was
so
just going to
not
say, what's the name of the restaurant so people know if they're listening?
Le Coq Feel?
Oh,
like,
okay. The friendly
like-
chicken?
I don't know, because feel would it be like children?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not-
FILS?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't
the
know.
Young,
So
the young chicken, maybe? Yeah,
maybe,
something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Okay. Anyways.
Some- chicken and kids.
Yeah. What is cooking back there in that kitchen?
It's really yummy though.
Yeah, I'm
and
just
it's on
thinking.
a lot of like lists,
I
like when
bet.
you read about
Nice.
Parisian restaurants, but it still is like casual. It's
That's
not
good.
like a fancy.
Yeah.
It's just like roast chicken.
Yeah.
They have some chickens. It's like going when you get a dry aged steak and they're like, this one is this many months.
Oh,
And they're like,
yeah.
this chicken has been brined for this
Yeah.
long
Oh,
and this
wow.
long, So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So
Cool.
that's my only advice there is like
Yeah.
expected to be kind of touristy up there.
That's what I was hearing too, which was why we decided to cancel it. It's like not a big deal because for us it was more about the viewpoint.
Yeah.
So when it was all gross
Yeah.
and nasty, we were like, the view's not going to be that great. So we're getting a little long. So I wanted to wrap up maybe again, we're going back to the first timers episode. So let's think about a few final tips. So you mentioned cab, you took a cab there, and I know there's a trick with that. We used Uber and I learned that probably wasn't the best choice. So I know there's something with that. We can maybe talk about money and pickpocketing a little bit if needed, but then maybe finally, if you have a favorite hotel you'd recommend. I loved where we stayed. It was basic and great, and not basic, it was a nice property. But yeah, and I can't think if there's a final tip, but we'll try and quickly close out with a few final first
Yeah.
timer tips. So why don't you talk
Yeah.
about cabs? Yeah.
Yeah, getting around. So there's an app called G7 that you can download and it operates just like Uber, but it's for the local G7 cabs. And so I found like I did use Uber once
Hmm.
and it took a while for the Uber to get there. Whereas like every time I used G7, it was like they're 2 minutes away, they're 3 minutes
Yeah.
away. It came very quickly, very easy to use. Same as Uber, you put in your address where you're going. You pay online with a credit card, so you don't need to worry about cash. You don't need to worry about
Yeah.
language. The drivers that I had were all like nicely dressed, very clean cars, like
Yeah.
really like better than an Uber,
Yeah.
like kind of thing anyway. So I would definitely recommend that.
And I
I
heard
also
they
feel like,
also get special access, like on certain roads, they're allowed to use like a bus lane or something, whereas Ubers are technically not allowed to do that. So that was another reason I heard that you want to use them is because they can be faster. They can
that
avoid
makes sense.
traffic. Yep.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And then I know some people are hesitant with the metros, but I find Paris Metro, like, I also, like, I am someone that's more comfortable using metros.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I think we've talked about this before, but I'm like not as comfortable with buses, but when it comes to like subways
Yeah.
and metros, I'm
Yep.
pretty good. And so I find it like the stations are clean, the cars are clean. A lot of them do have like kind of glass partitions and with doors that open like where the train door. So there is no pushing someone onto the tracks or something like that. Not every station was that way. But I do think the busier train stations, so Paris has what, three or four really large train stations. So the metros that are going through there in particular, like people are very crowded. They're like looking around. They've got a lot of bags with
Yep.
them. They're trying to figure out where to go. I think that's the prime spot for
Yep.
pickpocketers, because I've heard stories of people like on trains or
Yep.
getting onto the train and realize like their phone is gone or something.
Yeah.
Again, when we just did an episode with Kirsten, she talked about the phone strap and
Yep.
how good that is to like make sure it's not just easily slipping out of your pocket.
Yeah, like when we were in the Gare de Lyon to go down to Geneva, you could almost identify people, and they were definitely hanging out, looking for people to prey upon. Like even looking at the boards. So I was just keeping stuff, and I had bought little like carabiner
Hmm.
clips, like mini ones for my backpack and everything, and we had lanyards for our phones, and just keeping stuff in front of us instead of pulling it behind us and stuff like that. So definitely something to know about that. But otherwise, I do think that it's a great way to get around if you're at all able to be comfortable. I don't know if they have an app that'll help tell you go into which station to go into, which train to get. I don't know if you'd use Google, or do they
Google
have
Maps is
Google worked well.
really, yeah.
Perfect.
We used it when it was just Glenn and I. Earlier in the week, I was with someone from Paris,
Yeah.
so I asked her what stop are we getting off,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
it was very easy.
And
And
did you
I
tap
did
to pay at the
buy.
turnstiles, or do you buy
They
a
do not
pass?
have tap to. They don't
Okay.
have tap to pay unless you have the app where you have something loaded already.
Okay.
So I just bought the tickets at the machines, but the machines are very easy to use. You just choose English
Good. I
and
was
then
just
it
gonna,
walks
okay,
you through.
good.
There's a little like roller to navigate to the different. It's
Okay.
super easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will say about language, it would pay for you to speak a little bit of French just as from a respect standpoint. And then don't be surprised if some people just won't speak English, and so you need to figure it out on your own. I don't think that's the case, like of course at hotels or restaurants or anything like that. But if you just go up to
Yeah.
someone, if you're in a neighborhood and expecting to get help, or even like you said, Ubers and certain things, like our Uber driver, his English was not amazing, which was surprising. So he was able to say enough, but so that was something worth knowing.
Yeah.
Pays off. And when you go into stores, it's always good to greet them. They like that.
Hmm.
If you It's in the States, I think we sometimes are scared they're going to sell to us, but for there you just want to say bonjour when you come in and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And you need to ask for the check when you are ready at the
Yeah.
restaurants.
And
And what I
water is another thing, like the water stuff,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
knowing to
with a
ask.
lot of European countries, like they'll if you just ask for water, they will usually ask you still or sparkling, and they'll bring you a bottle of water that you pay for.
Like
You can
5 or
ask
6
for
bucks.
a carafe de eau, and
Yep.
then
Yep.
it's just like the
Yep.
the
Tap
carafe
water.
of
Yep.
tap water.
Yeah. Yep. Anything final? We can talk about maybe the hotel, or I'm trying to think if there's any final tips. Money, I didn't feel like it was an issue at all. Of course, it's euro, so it's easy to have euros, but I feel like I
Yeah,
used my
I only
card
used
mostly.
cash for tips
Yeah.
was really all I had to use
Yeah.
cash for. And even like when you do pay at a restaurant, if you do want to leave tip, which at the finer dining, they would expect like a 10% or so. Then you want to tell them when they bring over the little terminal before they take your card, because they'll add it. So you
They
don't
assume you're going to leave
most of them
cash.
won't have most of them yeah, or most of them won't have the screen that we get, for us, we pack our own stuff and then
Right.
they want you a tip, right? Like you don't have that screen where it's 20%, like whatever, it's, so you need to tell them before they run the card and they'll
Interesting.
just add it that way.
Yeah, I forgot
So
about that. There is like an
unless you,
expected tipping culture there again now.
just with like the little cafes, people usually just round up or coins or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
but not with the
Nicer,
finer dining.
dining.
They expect
Yeah.
something. And when you're an American
Yeah.
too. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Yeah. With hotel, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you a pitch,
Yeah.
and that is call me.
There you go. Yeah.
Let me, because as I said, on this trip, I stayed at 6 different hotels. I looked at 18 others. I've stayed at other multiple properties over the last couple of years when I visited Paris. And so I think it really depends, like we were talking earlier, of what kind of trip you're going to do,
Yeah.
what neighborhood you want to be on, who you're traveling with,
What your
price
travel
point
style
is.
is and like what your
All
vibe
of
is.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
So I would love to give you recommendations and help book for you and maybe get you some,
Perks.
VIP
Yeah.
perks too, if I can. But it helps to have a conversation. But what I will say is it's pricey.
Yeah.
Like Paris is pricey.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that as well. Like food and everything. It's, definitely not. You're not going to just get a deal. Nice. I will also mention as a little like pitch, like coming off of what you said, Tamara, while I don't have 16 hotel experiences in Paris, but big news for our listeners. I actually am in the process of becoming a travel advisor myself. So going to be like Tamara a little bit and be able to help you book trips. And of course, some of you have been listening for a while and know I'm pretty good with cruising and the West Coast and a few other destinations, but you're always welcome to reach out to me too as I start to build this new business. So, exciting news.
So Kim and I will continue to have a lot in common, from
Yeah.
meeting as family travel bloggers to becoming podcast friends, and now we'll be supporting each other in our separate
Travel
advisor
yeah.
businesses.
Yep. We'll be independent contractors, so working on our own, but get to travel and help other people since we've become travel experts. We've raised travelers, hopefully also our kids. Now we get to plan trips for other people.
I know. I do look at it as, and I did this a little bit a long time ago, I had less travel experience, and now I feel like, okay, like I've been so many places that I'm able to really confidently talk to, but then also just being in this industry for a while have made a lot of partnerships with different people in destinations.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's all about finding the right partners for the client as well.
I agree. Yep. So thank you for everyone joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you have fun planning a trip to Paris, or at least helping send this to a friend if they're looking to plan a trip themselves. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and rate and review on your favorite podcast app, as that helps other people discover us. And if you want to see more, follow me, Tamara, at Your Time to Fly on Instagram and Facebook and all the others.
And you can follow me, Kim, at Stuff Suitcase on Instagram, Facebook, and of course my blog.